Looking at the toughest stretch the Buccaneers are going to face in 2024, that and more on today's episode of Locked On Bucs.
You are Locked On Buccaneers, your daily Tampa Bay Buccaneers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, and welcome into this Friday episode of Locked On Bucs, your daily podcast covering the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I want to thank you for making Locked On Bucs your first listener view every single day. Don't forget you can subscribe or follow for free on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. And of course, you can follow along on Twitter. I am James Yarcho at @JYarcho_Bucs, credentialed member of the media covering your Tampa Bay Buccaneers as deputy editor of SB Nation's BucsNation.com. Here with you every Monday through Friday, along with the everydayers. And for that, I want to share my appreciation for your continued support of the show. One of the ways you can support the show is become a Locked On Bucs insider. You're going to get news, rumors, updates, general thoughts, one-on-one conversations with me via text message. Go to joinsubtext.com/LockedOnBucs to become an insider today. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 with any winning $5 bet. Visit FanDuel.com/LockedOn to get started. Where the Bucs can really make up some ground, and a way too early win-loss prediction coming up in a little bit. But let's start with the toughest stretch the Buccaneers are going to face, and it comes early on in the year. So looking over the schedule, I had my initial reaction on yesterday's episode, some things that really jumped out to me off of this schedule, but I took another look, and going over the toughest stretch, it has to be, to me, weeks 4 through 10, and that is a long stretch, but it is incredibly tough. Let's go through it. The run is home against the Eagles, at Atlanta on Thursday night, at the Saints, versus the Ravens on Monday night, Falcons at home, the Chiefs in primetime, then home against the 49ers. So starting this run off, you have a game against the Eagles, who should be much better than what the Buccaneers saw in January when Philadelphia came to Ray J for that playoff game. They have a completely revamped secondary. They have a ferocious pass rush. They have a new defensive coordinator. They have all the offensive weapons that Philly, already had. You add in Saquon Barkley. This is a difficult team to go against, and that is going to make this an incredibly difficult game. Then you're on a short week going on the road to travel to Atlanta for the first divisional game of the year. I spoke yesterday about how that's one of my top 3 biggest games, because I think it will set the tone for the Buccaneers in the NFC South. Everyone loves the Falcons right now, and it is what it is. They loved the Saints last year. They love the Falcons this year, but the Bucs are going to have to win in primetime in a hostile environment against Raheem and Kirk. I would expect Bijan Robinson and Kyle Pitts to have much larger roles now than they did, in the, last year, or for Kyle Pitts, the year before, because they do have somebody taking over the offense that is somewhat competent compared to that of Arthur Smith. And then, of course, division games are always tough. Then another road division game going to New Orleans. Not much needs to be said there. You're going from hostile environment to hostile environment. You're going to get a little bit of extra rest. But right after that, you have another primetime game against one of the top teams in the AFC and Lamar Jackson. And of course, Lamar Jackson is a huge threat. He can single-handedly take over games with his rushing ability. He is a solid quarterback. The Bucs have struggled against him in the past, and it's not going to be any easier this time. Then you're right back against the division with the Falcons coming to Tampa. So you have whoever lost the first time going to be extra motivated to get the win, get the season split, which will play a big role late in the year when you're talking about the race for the division title. You're talking about tiebreakers. You're talking about all those things. So the Bucs, if you're going to lose in Atlanta, you have to win against the Falcons at home. If you win in Atlanta, now you have to make sure that you can match the level of intensity that Atlanta's going to play with, fighting tooth and nail for that season split. Then you're back on prime time again against the defending Super Bowl champions in one of the most difficult stadiums in the NFL to play in. Oh, and by the way, right after that, you play the Super Bowl runners-up. An absolute gauntlet of a stretch there, and I'm going to be honest, the Bucs have got to come out of that stretch with at least 3 wins, and 2 of those 3 minimum have to come against Atlanta and or New Orleans, or it might create a hole that's just too big for the Buccaneers to climb out of when it comes to crunch time in that playoff race late in the year. Even if the Bucs start, let's say 2-1, and let's say they win against Washington and Denver, they lose to Detroit. 3 wins over this stretch that I'm talking about sends the Bucs into the bye week at 5-5. It's not terrible, but it's still going to be a climb in the second half of the year. At worst, the Bucs could only be 4-6 in order to not really be in a hole so deep that they, can't get back into playoff contention. I don't know if 9-8 wins the NFC South this year the way that it did last year. And people can point to the Bucs having the quote unquote 6th easiest strength of schedule, but that's beyond dumb. Look at the teams on the Buccaneers schedule: Philadelphia, Kansas City, San Fran, Baltimore, Dallas, Detroit. It's only the 6th easiest because the strength of schedule is based on the win percentage from the year before. They face the worst team in the NFL in 2023 twice. Then they face the second worst team from 2023 in week 1. Those low winning percentages affect the overall percentage and bring it way, way down. This is not an easy schedule. And these teams have all changed drastically compared to what they were last year. So when it comes to strength of schedule and you see those rankings, throw that nonsense out the window because it is 100% meaningless. The Bucs are different. The Panthers are different. The Commanders are different. Every team in the NFL is different than they were a year ago, whether that's because of free agency or the draft or coaching changes or a combination of all 3. That strength of schedule is completely irrelevant. So that 7-week stretch could make or break the entire season for the Buccaneers before they head into the bye week. But the good news is they can make up some serious ground on the backside of the bye. That is coming up next on today's episode of Locked On Bucs, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. It's winner take all time in the NBA and NHL, and FanDuel is giving you a shot to bring home a big win of your own. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 to bet on spreads, money lines, player props, over-unders, parlays, and much, much more. Bet on everything from slap shots to home runs to slam dunks, all on an app that is safe, secure, and easy to use. The Boston Celtics are the favorite to win the NBA Finals at -130, followed by the defending champion Denver Nuggets at +240, then the Oklahoma City Thunder at +800. In the race for Lord Stanley's Cup, the greatest trophy in all of sports, the Dallas Stars are the new favorites at +230, followed by the Florida Panthers at +290, and then Connor McDavid and the Edmonton Oilers holding strong in third at +460. Visit FanDuel.com/LockedOn and make every playoff shot count. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Thank you again for making Locked On Bucs your first listener view every single day. Every day, make sure you are coming back on Monday. Plenty more to discuss about the state of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. But in the meantime, are you watching Fox Sports or ESPN on your TV all day and have to turn down the volume with all that shouting? Make the switch to Locked On Sports today, a free 24/7 sports streaming channel programmed for you every day to bring you the biggest stories without all the screaming. Locked On Sports Today brings you can't-miss analysis, opinions, and news, streaming 24/7 on YouTube or the free Amazon Fire TV channels app, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Now, where do things ease up for the Buccaneers in 2024? Honestly, it's the whole back half of the schedule. But let's focus on coming out of the bye. And I am going to target weeks 12 through 15. This is a stretch where the Bucs could rattle off 4 straight wins. Yes, they have a lot of traveling to do over that span, but the Bucs go to MetLife to take on the New York Giants, then at Carolina, who isn't going to be much better than last year. And I would venture to guess Todd Bowles is going to win that chess match against Dave Canales. Then it's back home against the Las Vegas Raiders, who have some incredible talent, but they punted on the quarterback position this season, so the Bucs have an advantage there. Then it's off to California to take on Jim Harbaugh and the Los Angeles Chargers. After getting a week off and coming off of that brutal stretch that we talked about in the last segment, the Giants could not be a better matchup for Tampa to get back on track. Daniel Jones is still terrible and has virtually nothing around him. You are talking about Malik Neighbors, Darius Slayton, Wan'Dale Robinson as the wide receivers. You have Devin Singletary at running back. You have, the Bucs get Evans, Godwin, McMillan up against Nick McLeod, Deontay Banks, and Drew Phillips. The Bucs have the advantages all across the board. After that, it's the Carolina Panthers. Bryce Young is not going to miraculously become this top-tier quarterback. He'll be lucky if he's even elevated to average quarterback. And the arrival of Dave Canales is not going to make that massive of an impact in 1 year. Canales is going to try to pound the ball. You all know that. He moved up in the draft to get rookie running back Jonathan Brooks. And when that isn't working against this Buccaneers run defense, Young will be relegated to throwing to Deontay Johnson, Adam Thielen, if he's not hurt by then, and Xavier Legette, who I think was a huge reach given the other receivers that were available on the board when the Panthers traded up into the first round on day one of the NFL draft. Again, advantages across the board for Tampa Bay. Then Las Vegas, as I mentioned, they still don't have a quarterback. They have good receivers. They have arguably the best tight end duo in the league, but they don't have anyone to get them the ball. Josh Jacobs is gone. Zamir White and Alexander Madison are the running backs. They have to create a threat in the run game, which I don't think either one of them can do against Tampa's defense. So making them one-dimensional plays right into Todd Bowles' hands, allows him to tee off on Gardner Minshew or Aiden O'Connell, whoever the quarterback is, by the time that game rolls around. Then finally, the Chargers. I think Harbaugh is going to get them on track. Jim Harbaugh is a really good football coach, but I still want to know who Herbert is throwing to. Keenan Allen is gone. Mike Williams is gone. Austin Eckler is gone. J.K. Dobbins is the running back. I mean, when's the last time he played a football game this late into an NFL season? The smart money is on the fact that J.K. Dobbins will be out with an injury by the time this Week 15 matchup comes up. Then you have Ladd McConkey, the rookie wide receiver. We'll see about him. Quentin Johnson is decent, but as the number one, that doesn't worry me as somebody who is going to be focused on what the team I cover can do to stop the opposition. Now, obviously, Bosa and Khalil Mack can absolutely take over a football game if the Bucs aren't careful and if they don't have their protections lined up properly and able to limit what those two can do. But again, if the Bucs are healthy, they are by far the better overall team. Go back to my worst case scenario from earlier in this show, and let's say the Bucs are 4-6 heading into the bye week. Heck, let's even say that they're 3-7. Let's say real tragedy hit, and the Bucs head into the bye week at 3-7. They're probably being written off by everybody under the sun. This stretch can get 4 straight wins, and then all of a sudden they're sitting at 8-6. They're sitting at 7-7. Then you get the Cowboys in prime time, the Panthers, and the Saints. You are looking at anywhere from 11-6 to 9-8 for this Buccaneers team, and I genuinely think that is the range of outcomes for this Bucs team. I firmly believe they are going to finish above 500, and I think their ceiling for this year is probably 11 wins. Of course, that is barring any major injuries. If Baker Mayfield goes down, if Mike Evans goes down, Tristan Wirfs, if any of those guys go down, the offense is vastly different than it would be otherwise. Same thing on the defensive side of the ball. If Levante goes down, if Antoine goes down, if Vita Vea misses extended time, it changes the entire structure of what the defense is able to do. But on paper, a healthy Buccaneers team are an above 500 roster in the hunt for a 5th straight playoff appearance and likely a 4th straight division title. So let's go ahead and do it. My way too early, week by week record predictions that we will only ever bring up again if I'm right. That is coming up next on today's episode of Locked On Bucs. Passion, drive, and patience, the formula for winning championships, is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. Superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, or in my case, 2 different times, full sets of brakes and rotors. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has got you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. So keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit only available to U.S. customers. Wrapping things up here on a Friday edition of the Locked On Bucs podcast. Just a reminder, I am recording this Friday episode way earlier than normal. So if any major news broke on Thursday or over the course of Friday, we will get to that on Monday. As you guys know, my son has a hockey tournament in Pittsburgh this weekend. We are leaving Thursday night. Had to make sure that I got this episode done early for you, but now we are going to go through it week by week. Where are the wins coming from? Where are the losses coming from? So week 1 against the Washington Commanders. I know longtime listener Matt was giving me grief on Thursday morning because he said you might as well chalk that one up as a loss right now. And he said he was going to call Jason Light and have him schedule the creamsicles for week 1 because I'm going to be in attendance and I haven't covered a Buccaneers win. So he figures they're going to lose. Might as well kill 2 birds, 1 stone. I have this marked down as a win. Todd Bowles against a rookie quarterback is a pretty hit or miss history, but I think top to bottom, you take a look at these 2 teams. The Bucs have the better receivers. The Bucs have the better running back. The Bucs have the better offensive line. They have the better defensive line. They have the best safety in the NFL. They have the better inside linebackers. Matchups across the board, again, favor the Buccaneers in this one. I think they have more than enough talent to get a win week 1 at Ray J against David Harrison's Commanders. Week 2 at Detroit, returning following the divisional round loss in the playoffs. I have this one marked down as a loss. Detroit is just a wagon. You have the Carlton Davis revenge game storyline, whether or not that actually plays a factor into things. If I'm going Mike against Carlton Davis, I'm going to take Mike. Same with Chris Godwin. But the Detroit Lions, top to bottom, are one of the most talented rosters in the NFL. They are absolutely Super Bowl contenders, which is a wild thing to say about the Detroit Lions, but I think it's a close one. But the Buccaneers lose against the Denver Broncos. They have their rookie quarterback. Sean Payton continues to be one of the worst human beings ever to walk the face of the earth. The Bucs are going to win that one easily. And then you go into the game against the Philadelphia Eagles. They are coming to town. I have that marked as a loss. Head to Atlanta, Thursday night football, short week, big game, big pressure, first divisional matchup of the year. I have that as a win for the Buccaneers. They are going to get the better of Kirk Cousins and Raheem Morris. Back-to-back divisional road games. Week 6, they head to New Orleans to take on Derek Carr and the New Orleans Saints. I have that one marked as a win. Then back in primetime at home against Lamar Jackson and the Baltimore Ravens, I have that one as a loss. The Bucs have not been able to figure out Lamar Jackson. He is the X factor. He is the athlete on the field that can single-handedly take over that game. It's going to be a tough one for the Buccaneers, especially early on before Chris Braswell as an edge rusher really gets his feet under him. I just don't know where the pressure is going to come from to contain Lamar Jackson this early in the year. I just don't see the Bucs winning that one. Week 8 at home against the Atlanta Falcons, their third division game in 4 weeks. Season sweep. They're going to take care of business against the Atlanta Falcons. Then back in primetime again, this time going to Arrowhead in the land of the Swifties to take on the defending champion Kansas City Chiefs. I have that one as a loss. And then week 10 against the Super Bowl runner-ups. Brock Purdy is a decent quarterback, but my goodness, Christian McCaffrey, Brandon Ayuk, Deebo Samuel, that unbelievable defense that San Francisco has. I have that one marked as a loss. I think it's going to be closer than most people will expect, but I do have San Francisco winning that one. So heading into the bye, I have the Bucs at 5-5. Week 11 bye, you regroup, you rest a little bit, get some guys healthy because there's going to be injuries. Week 12, you head to MetLife to take on the New York Giants. I have that as a win. Week 13, their first game against Dave Canales and the Carolina Panthers. That's a win. Week 14 against the Las Vegas Raiders. That's a win. Week 15, heading to Los Angeles to take on Harbaugh and the Chargers. Again, Harbaugh is going to have the Chargers playing much better than they were last year. I still have this one as a win for the Buccaneers. 4 straight wins coming out of the bye. Then week 16, Sunday night football in Jerry World against the Dallas Cowboys. I have that one as a loss, unfortunately. As much as I hate the Cowboys and I would love for the Bucs to go into Jerry World and beat Dallas again, I don't see it happening this time around. Week 17, Dave Canales comes back to Tampa. And again, I'm sure it will be to a warm welcome from the Buccaneers faithful. Carolina is still going to be a bad team. We're talking 3, maybe 4 wins this season for Carolina. It's not coming against the Buccaneers. That is going to be a win. And then week 18 at home against the New Orleans Saints. Please don't throw things at me or block me or attack me in the comments. I have this one as a loss. But I have this one as a loss because at that point in time, the Buccaneers won't have to win. They will have already clinched the division. My final record prediction for the Bucs, 10-7 on the year. They will be 10-6 going into week 18. New Orleans, win or lose, will not take first place away from Tampa in the division. They can rest Baker. They can rest Mike. They can rest Vita and Levante and not worry about any injuries to key players. 10-7, NFC South champs for the 4th consecutive season, 5th consecutive playoff appearance, and they will be the 4 seed in the NFC playoffs. So tell me where I got it wrong. Let me know what your record predictions are, and you got to go week by week too. Don't go into the comments on YouTube and be like, oh, the Bucs are going 13-4. No, you got to tell me where these are coming from, who they're coming against. You got to give me something here. You can't just give me a blanket record prediction. You got to tell me who the losses are coming against, and if you have them upsetting Kansas City in Arrowhead, I need reasons. I need reasons for that. But in the YouTube comments, on Twitter, at Locked On Bucs, at @JYarcho_Bucs, tell me where I got it wrong. Let me know what your record predictions are. Insiders, you can shoot me a text message and let me know what your week by week record predictions are. And again, it is the middle of May, quite literally the middle of May as this is being recorded. We are only going to reference this record prediction and these weekly predictions if I am right. If I am wrong, it was May. What do you expect me to do? With that, I'm going to bid you all a fair adieu. Please check out everything going on over at BucsNation.com. Make sure you're following on Twitter at Locked On Bucs, at @JYarcho_Bucs. Make sure you're subscribed on YouTube or your favorite podcast platform of choice. If you are sick of listening to local radio or national radio shows or whatever it is because they don't talk about your Bucs enough, plug me into that Apple CarPlay or that Android Auto. Take me on a ride to or from work with you. Listen to me in the car. You don't have to worry about, having to hear about the Dallas Cowboys for the 800th time in a day. Become a Locked On Bucs insider. Go to joinsubtext.com/LockedOnBucs. Hope you all have an absolutely outstanding weekend. Stay safe, stay healthy, fire the cannons. I want to thank you so much for joining me right here on Locked On Bucs, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.